recording, and I'll take the sederunt for this meeting of the Housing and Technical Resources Committee on the 15th of March 2023. As the Chair said, we have apologies from Councillor Bradley with Councillor Salamati substituting. I've noted we have Councillor Brogan, Councillor Archie Buchanan and Councillor Matthew Buchanan present. Also apologies from Councillor Kalikis. I have Councillor Convery present, Councillor Cooper and Councillor Cowan. Is Councillor Devlin joined? Yep, thank you. And Councillor Dewar? Yep. Yeah. Councillor Fagan? I don't think we have. And I have Councillor Falconer, Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Fulton and Councillor Gowland present. Councillor Gray? No. I have Councillor Lambie, Councillor Lennon, Councillor Lockhart, Councillor Mars, Councillor McCallan, Councillor McCreary, Councillor McLachlan, all present. Councillor Ray is present as well, and also Councillor Shearer and Councillor Walker. I'll pass you back. Thank you, Chair. Okay,
thanks very much, Helen. At 11 o'clock, if the meeting takes that long, we'll be stopping for 5 minutes for an eye break for the BSL users. Is there any declarations of interest? Nope. Item 1 on the agenda. Sorry. Councillor Cowan.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Chair. I have a declaration of interest around agenda item 15 in that I was involved in a professional capacity in the sale of this property.
Okay. Thanks very much. So you'll absent yourself at that item. That was the last item on the agenda anyway. Okay, any other declaration of interest? Nope. Item 2 is the minutes of the previous meeting, pages 5 to 18. I'm going to move that as a correct record.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Item 3, minutes of the special meeting, pages 19 to 22. I'll move that as a correct record. Is there any?
I'll second that.
Is there any questions or comments? Thanks, Martin. Nope. Item 4 on the agenda is Revenue Budget Monitoring 22 to 23, Housing and Technical Resources, excluding Housing Revenue Account, and that's on pages 23 to 28. And Hazel, will you take us through that, please?
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of the report is to provide information on actual expenditure against the revenue budget for housing and technical resources, excluding the housing revenue account. The period we're covering in this report is 1st of April 2022 to 27th of January 2023, and that's our accounting period 11. This is the 4th regular report we brought to committee for financial year 22-23, and appendices A through to C on pages 25 to 27 of the report provide further details of the financial position. If I could take you to section 5.1 of the report, we note there that we are projecting a year-end overspend of 0.342 million against the annual budget. The overspend is made up of overspends in the estates and homelessness services, but that's also offset by some underspends in housing support and the other housing budgets. And as at the 27th of January 2023, there is an overspend of 0.245 million against the phased budget. If I could refer members back to section 2 of the report, committees asked to note the overspend of 0.245 million as at period 11, the projected overspend of 0.342 million for year end, and also if you could approve the budget variants contained in appendices B and C. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Hazel. I'll move those recommendations.
I'll second them.
Is there any questions? Thank you very much, Hazel. The next item on the agenda is number 5, Revenue Budget Monitoring 22-23, Housing and Technical Resources, Housing Revenue Account. Back to you again, Hazel, please.
Thanks again, Chair. Again, similar report. This time we're covering the housing revenue account, and the report's for the same period, 1st of April 2022 to 27th of January 2023. Again, accounting period 11. And again, it's the 4th report for this budget. This time only one appendix on this report, Appendix A, and that's at page 31 and gives a bit more detail on the financial position. Again, section 5 of the report notes in this case that there's a forecast break-even position at the year end for the housing revenue account, and also the position as at the 27th of January is also a break-even position against the phase budget. Again, I would ask members to refer back to section 2 of the report. Please note the break-even position as at 27th of January. Note the forecast break-even position at year end, and I also have one budget variant contained within Appendix A, if that could be approved, please. Thank you.
Thanks again. Questions?
I'll second them.
Is there any questions? No, thank you very much. Item 6 on the agenda is Capital Budget Monitoring 22-23 Housing and Technical Resources, excluding Housing Revenue Account. And Lorena Hagan, please will you take us through this report?
Thanks, Chair. Good morning, Committee. Similar to the timeframe in Hazel's reports, this is the capital budget monitoring for the year to the 27th of January, our accounting period 11. Section 3 provides you with the background to the report and advises that the budget reported to the last committee was 8.486 million. And since that last meeting, Executive Committee have approved a change to the programme, totalling a net decrease of £50,000, taking us to a new programme for the year of 8.436 million. Now that's detailed in Appendix A to your report on page 36. Section 5 then gives you the main financial update for the period, and it notes the new budget of 8.436 for the year. In terms of spend anticipated for the year, current working projections show a spend anticipated of 5.1 million, and that's an underspend of £3.3 million. Now that's mainly due to the timing of spend on a number of projects that are multi-year projects, and we prepare the budget in 2023-24 rather than in the current year. And the main projects responsible for that variance are noted in section 5.2. And as I say, we will carry forward the funding into the new year to complete those projects. The anticipated spend position in section 5.3 is noted at 1.709 million to the end of January, with actual spend incurred of 1.691, so just a minor underspend of 18,000 at that point in the year. And if I can refer committee back to recommendations in section 2, that the Housing and Technical Resources budget of 8.436 million, spend to the 27th of January of 1.691 million, and an outturn for the financial year of 5.1 million be noted. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Lorraine. I'm going to move those recommendations.
I'll second them.
Is there any questions? Thank you, Lorraine. Item 7 is Capital Budget Monitoring 22-23 Housing and Technical Resources Housing Revenue Account. And we're coming back to Hazel for this one, please. Hazel, thank you. Pages 37 to 40.
Thanks, Chair. Again, covering the same period for the other financial reports, 1st of April 2022 up to 27th of January 2023, and this is the capital report for the housing revenue account. Appendix A on page 39 has got a wee bit more information, including funding sources. At section 5 of the report, we're noting that the housing capital programme totals 66.361 million, and the actual spend to the 27th of January 2023 is 43.015 million. We're now estimating that we will be underspent at the year end on this programme, around about 4.1 million at the time of writing the report. That's due to a number of factors that are detailed at 5.2, including property services operatives having to be diverted during the bad weather in December, a number of environmental studies on external fabric projects, and work has required to be paused there due to suspected presence of bats. There's also been a reduced owner uptake on external works, and also the service has been experiencing higher than normal no accesses for legislative works. We will continue to monitor in the coming weeks the available spend. However, funding for projects that remain underspent at the year end can be carried forward to allow the projects to be completed. So I would refer members back to section 2 of the report again. Committee is asked to note the HRA capital programme of 66.361 million and the expenditure to date of 43.015 million. Thank you.
Thank you, Hazel. I'm going to move those recommendations, or that recommendation.
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions? No. Item 8 on the agenda is Housing and Technical Resources Workforce Monitoring, October to December 2022. And I'm going to ask Eileen McPake to take us through that. Eileen.
Thank you. So this is the standard workforce monitoring report, and the purpose of the report is to provide committee with an update on employment information for the resource covering the period October to December 2022. So section 4.1 outlines the attendance statistics, and the resource absence figure for December 2022 was 5.6%, and that represents a decrease of 0.3% compared to the previous month. And compared to the previous year, the figure has decreased by 1.1%. In addition, the December 22 figure for the resource is 1.4% lower than the council-wide figure. So all of that translates to a projected annual average figure for the resource for the year 22-23 of 6.5% compared to a council-wide average of 6%. Moving on then, sections 4.2 to 4.5, and the details are in Appendix 2. So 4.2 states that during the period there was 165 occupational health referrals, and section 4.3 details the accidents and incidents, and there was 10 incidents recorded during the period. And section 4.4, in terms of discipline, grievance and dignity at work, there was 3 disciplinary hearings. There was no grievance hearings and there was no dignity at work issues raised. Moving on, paragraph 4.5, in terms of leavers, there was 9 leavers during the period eligible for an exit interview, and 4 of these exit interviews were conducted. In paragraph 4.7 details that during the period there was 24 employees that left the resource and posts became vacant, and managers have indicated that all of these posts will be filled. And at section 5, in terms of staff and watch information for the resource as at December 2022, in comparison to September 2022, there was an increase of 4 employees. So I'll refer committee back to section 2 within the report and ask that they approve the recommendation that the workforce monitoring information for housing and technical resources for October to December 2022 be noted. Thank you.
Thanks, Eileen. Going to move that recommendation.
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions? Thank you. Item 9 on the agenda is items for decision. It's Housing Allocation Policy, Local Letting Plans 23 to 24. I'm going to ask Annette Finnan to take us through this report. Annette, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is a standard annual report that we bring to committee to advise on performance against the letting targets and also to seek approval for the targets and letting initiatives for the year ahead. Letting plans are a key feature of the housing allocation policy and ensure a strategic and flexible approach is taken that takes account of the differences in supply and demand across the local areas. Plans are prepared annually for each of the housing management areas, setting out letting targets and the letting initiatives in operation. Section 5 of the report provides an update on achievement against the letting targets in 22-23 projected to year end, and full details are in Appendices 1 and 2. In general, targets for lets to the urgent, transfer and waiting lists are projected to be met. Lets to the other category list are projected to slightly exceed the target set due to the contribution that the Council has made to providing housing to displaced Ukrainian households. The banded targets for sheltered housing will also generally be met, with the targets for the waiting list projected to be slightly exceeded across South Lanarkshire. Variations at a local level relate to different levels of supply and demand in some areas, along with variations in turnover. Sections 6 and 7 of the report refer to the proposed letting targets for 23-24, which are also detailed in Appendices 1 and 2. There are no changes proposed to the overall South Lanarkshire targets, with some minor changes proposed to the banded targets in some local management areas. The factors which have been taken into account when reviewing and setting the targets are noted at 6.2 and include the contribution or the continuing rather high level of demand for mainstream housing, with almost 15,000 applicants on the housing list, a continuing high level of demand for sheltered housing. Despite the continuing positive impact of our housing options and homeless prevention approaches, the number of homeless applications received remains high, and so far this year we're seeing a 14% increase on last year. And the number of applicants on the urgent homeless list is increasing. We're seeing a projected 9% reduction in turnover. We're also looking at the ongoing joint work with our RSL partners and the contribution of the planned increase in supply of social rented housing during 23-24. Local letting initiatives allow for some flexibility in the policy to address particular needs, issues or local circumstances. And Section 8 of the report provides an update on the local letting initiatives in operation during 22-23 and those proposed for 23-24. It's proposed that the existing 5 local initiatives in operation are retained and that a new initiative be introduced for 1 year subject to review for the Whitlaburn area of Cambuslang to support the recent regeneration. Full details of the initiatives are provided in Appendix 3. At Section 8.6, it's proposed that the South Lanarkshire-wide letting initiative, introduced to help mitigate the impact of some welfare reforms, be discontinued, given that our review found very limited use over the full period and given other mitigation it is effectively no longer required. At sections 8.7 and 8.8, it's noted that the service will take proactive steps to support tenants under occupying their homes who wish to move. The impact of letting targets and initiatives will continue to be monitored throughout the coming year and reported to committee at a future date. If I can take committee back to the recommendations, committee is asked to approve the progress against the 22-23 letting targets be noted, the 23-24 mainstream and sheltered targets attached to Appendix 1 and 2 be approved, and that the local letting initiatives attached to Appendix 3 also be approved. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Annette. I'm going to move those recommendations.
I'll second them.
Is there any questions? Andrea Cowan.
Hi, thanks again, Chair. I just wanted to touch briefly on, obviously this is all good work, good policy all being put together again, and that's continuing, which is great. The only point that I would wish to comment on is the under-occupancy initiative, or the South Lanarkshire-wide initiative, which is being scrapped, which is fair enough. I understand only 4 people took up this initiative over the sort of 4 years that it was running, so obviously not a roaring success in its present form. However, I do hope that under occupancy is looked at and that perhaps some new initiatives can be brought forward. There are probably a lot of people in family homes who are now struggling with heating bills and the like, and you know, if we can encourage some of these tenants to release these family homes, it would help with movement and the general housing list. And given that the homelessness figures are increasing a whopping 14% this year, I think it's important that we free up as many family homes as possible. So I would just ask that this initiative, while it's being discontinued, that we look at this as a source of increasing our housing stock. We continue to keep this under review and maybe think outside the box in terms of how we can encourage people to release these family homes back into housing. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea. On a personal note, or on a ward level note, I do know through various constituents that I've dealt with, we've managed to help them move from larger properties to smaller or even semi-sheltered properties. So that is something that I know that housing officers and housing managers look at actively to try and make sure that we're maximising the housing stock that we've got. Annette, is there any, would you like to respond to Andrea?
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Councillor Cowan, for your question and points. As you know, members will know there is real pressure for larger properties in our area. We are addressing this through our new build and our new supply programmes, but that remains so that for larger properties there are people waiting. We have said in the report, and it is the intention to be as proactive as we can be during the coming year to support tenants who are in larger properties to potentially move if they wish to do so. And that would include looking at incentives or any other actions that we might need to take to support that. So it is something we will be looking at. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea. Norman?
Thank you, Chair. My point and question relates to point 8.4, the addition of Whitlaburn to the as a local letting initiative. I think that's to be welcomed in general. It's a good thing because I know a lot of people in that area have had concerns relating to access for long-term residents there. I'd also like to ask, to what extent does a local letting initiative increase the priority over others on the waiting list?
Andrea, would you care to address that question, please? Beg your pardon, Annette. not Andrea. Relax.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Councillor, for your comments around the Whitlaburn initiative. We do think that will help promote sustainability in that area following the major regeneration project that we've just completed. As with the other initiative that's in place for Caskin, then the letting initiative will give reasonable priority to those on the transfer list and the waiting list who currently live or have another local connection in Whitlaburn. So that will be where the priority will go to from the waiting list and the transfer list in the year ahead.
Alan Falconer.
Thanks, Chair. It's just on the allocation policy, and I know it's transparent, but it's actually an item that comes up later, but it's regarding the 40 houses at Phillips's, affordable homes. And that's in my ward. I recall the last time we had this situation in West Craigs where we had affordable homes put and everybody and their granny was selling their house to get a house up there. And if I do recall at the time, the housing department did a full reorganisation of the management structure. We're going to have open and transparent allocations as regards to this area.
Well, I don't know how to take that question, Alan, because I don't imagine anything that's ever done isn't open and transparent within what's reasonable. There's obviously sensitive data and information that you wouldn't get revealed. But I mean, I don't know if there's a suggestion here that something was taking place that shouldn't have. I'm certainly not aware of that. I'm still speaking, Alan. I'm certainly not aware of that. And I wonder, Annette, if you would like to respond to Councillor Faulkner.
Thanks, Chair. I think all I can say is that we let houses in terms of our allocation policy, and the policy will be followed for the letting of any of our new build properties. Preference is given to those on the transfer list and those on the urgent housing list when we are allocating new build, but we do let to folk on the other list, which includes the waiting list, and we can't preclude anyone from applying that wishes to do so.
Thank you, Annette. I'm sure people like yourself and in my ward in particular, for me anyway, that I know of, the amount of people that have requested, how do I put my name down for a house up at Phillips? I mean, you know as well as I do that there's a housing list and people will put their name, they'll apply for housing in a particular area. And Annette can correct me if I'm wrong here, but if you make that your area of choice, you're on that list with everyone else and you'll be considered accordingly. Is that correct, Annette? Am I right in saying that? Thank you very much. Councillor Ross Lambie.
Thanks, Chair. I'd just like to pick up on the increase in homelessness and whether, trying to establish the reasons behind that, whether we can have a breakdown maybe of the reasons why people are becoming homeless. There's obviously a whole list of reasons, well, it's financial difficulties, but I'm interested to know whether people are declaring themselves homeless because other types of accommodation are not being made available, whether it's a mental health issue or it's neighbourly disputes and people feel threatened in their home and have declared themselves homeless. So I'd be interested to understand, because it's quite a jump, the various reasons behind that, and then us as a council can then try and prevent that from getting even worse. Thanks.
Annette, could you respond to that, please?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor, for your question. The increase we are seeing locally in terms of an increase in presentations of people who are homeless, as I said, up to February, we're seeing a 14% increase on last year, is reflected nationally. We are not performing any differently, if I put it that way, from any other local authority in Scotland, unfortunately. We are closely looking at the drivers behind this. You've touched on the financial challenges that many people are facing, which is clearly one. We are seeing relationship breakdown contributing partly to this, but the biggest contribution and the biggest reason for the increase is those people who can no longer access the private rented sector. It's no longer affordable for many, and or they are leaving, the landlords are leaving the sector, and people are presenting as homeless. That is the biggest driver that we're seeing. We're continuing to keep a very close monitor on this, and we will continue to look at through our housing options route and approach if there's more we can do to prevent homelessness, but that's the real driver so far.
Thank you very much, Annette. Is there any other questions? I don't see anyone. Okay, move on to the next item. Item 10 on the agenda is it's items for noting. Item 10, Housing and Technical Resources Plan Quarter 2 Progress Report 22 to 23. I'm going to ask Cameron Mitchell to take us through that, and that is in pages 57 to 76. Cameron?
Thanks, Chair. This report provides committee with the Quarter 2 Progress Update for Housing and Technical Resources Plan 2022-23. At section 3.1 in the background, this confirms that the Housing and Technical Resource Plan 22-23 was approved by committee on the 5th of October 2022 and sets out the outcomes, measures and actions to be progressed in the current financial year. 3.2 notes, as a standard, it reflects the corporate requirements and format. Turning to the main section, which is section 5, which provides a Quarter 2 Progress Report for 22-23. 5.1 highlights that progress against all resource plan measures are detailed in Quarter 2, are attached to Appendix 2, while in the table at 5.2 summarises the progress made in the period. Shows that of the 72 measures, 2 are complete marked blue, 54 are progressing in accordance with plan marked green, 8 are slightly behind target marked amber, while 1 is recorded as red due to significant slippage. 5.3 provides an outline of the achievements in the period, including the following points. 96.2% of all adaptations to council houses were complete by appointment. 93.2% of new tenancies have been sustained for more than a year against a target of 88%. 99% of reactive repairs were completed right first time. It also picks up the fact that the higher level of social rented properties directed to homeless households increased to 55.61% in the year. A final point and highlight also picks the local housing strategy has been completed for consultation in the year to date. Table 5.4 highlights the measure where there has been significant slippage. This relates to implementation of a new IT system where a revised delivery timeline has been discussed with the provider to address identified gaps in the business functionality. If I can refer back to section 2 in the recommendations, the committee is asked to approve the following recommendations. Firstly, that the Housing and Technical Resource Plan Quarter 2 Progress Report 22-23 as summarised at paragraph 5.2 and attached at appendix 2 of this report be noted. Secondly, that the key achievements made by the resource to date as detailed at 5.3 of this report be noted. And finally, that the area for improvement and associated management action detailed at 5.4 of the report be noted. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Cameron. I'm going to move those recommendations.
I'll second them.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions? Andrea Cowan?
Thanks again. This is me again, David. So just excellent results in this progress report. All of the numbers are fantastic. The only thing that I would like to speak to is the new council stock. Again, this is my thing, I suppose, at the moment. So just thinking that only 10 out of the 59 new council properties, if you like, or acquired council properties. Only 10 of them are buybacks. I just was conscious that we'd changed the policy on this recently, allowing tenants, owner-occupiers to come direct to housing if they wish to sell their property. And as everybody knows, this, I'm in this line of business, and I haven't seen it advertised anywhere. And I feel that this is an area that if we promoted it in the right places, we could certainly generate more interest. And as we all know, buying back a ready-made house is much cheaper than building a new one. So I just wondered if I could have a wee update as to where and how this policy is being advertised, just to encourage some more inquiries. Thanks.
Thanks, Andrea. I'm going to ask Cameron to come back to that, and maybe Annette, but certainly just in the last week, I've had a constituent approach me because they know that they can now sell directly to back to the council. I don't know how that person found out about it. I don't know where they've been looking, but that one constituent of mine has made an approach, and there's a process has started on that. So the message has got somehow to that person. Don't know how, but anyway, Annette or Cameron, any one of the two of you like to? Cameron?
I can update, Chair. Yeah, following the change in the council's policy, that was the council's online content and social media were revised and updated. We've also been taking steps to let letting agents and solicitors know the change, which we're continuing to do. I can also advise that as we near year end, obviously the update was at the point at the 5th of October, just as we're approving a new policy. I think concluding what's been concluded and what's in the pipeline, I think we're projecting 59 sales at the moment, with still some that may actually go beyond that. 59 purchases, sorry.
Does that answer your question, Andrea? Okay, I don't see she's pressed a button. That's fine. Okay, item 11 on the agenda is revision of costs associated with the acquisition of houses at former Phillips factory site, Wellhall Road, Hamilton, at section 75. I'm going to ask Joanne Forbes to take us through this report. Joanne, please. That's pages 77 to 80.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to advise committee of the use of Standing Orders 37C to amend the purchase terms for the 40 new homes at Wellhall Road in Hamilton from Lovell Homes. Committee will recall that at its meeting on the 14th of December 2022, they approved the acquisition of 40 homes at a price not in excess of £7 million. The house builder has elected to charge VAT on the land and the land element of the transaction, and that means that there is an additional £188,139.51 funds required to settle the transaction. This change will have no impact on the overall finances for the project, as the council will reclaim the VAT. However, we felt it was appropriate to advise the committee of the change in the total cost. I therefore refer the committee back to section 2 and ask that you note the actions undertaken under section 37C. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Joanne. I'll move those recommendations.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions? Alan Falconer.
Thanks, Chair. As Joanne quite rightly says, in 4.1 we agreed in December the 14th to acquire it for not in excess of £7 million. Then we see in 4.4 we've got an extra 188,000, and then we see in 6.4 we're claiming it back the VAT. So I hope we're complying with our fiscal duties. I'd be quite surprised how Custom and Excise and the Audit Scotland would look at this, that £188,000 has been put in the cost of that, then we're reclaiming it, taxpayers' money. I mean, I can't understand if you knew on the 14th of December that was the price we were paying, and suddenly they come back and say, aye, you pay another 188,000, but you'll be able to claim it back half the taxpayer.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Alan.
Chair.
Thank you very much for your question. What I recall of this, and I've had a discussion with Stephen and Joanne about it, we weren't aware of this in the 14th of December. Joanne will correct me if I'm wrong. And there's no impact, Joanne has mentioned that in the report, there is no impact on the budget because any VAT that you claim in your VAT register, you get that VAT back. So it's got a zero impact on the accounting of this. I think it is a bit unusual, and Joanne can back me up again here if I'm correct. It's quite unusual to be asked to pay VAT on these types of transactions, but it's perfectly legal, and it's the seller who opts to do that. I don't know exactly the ins and outs of how VAT works, but I'm pretty sure Joanne will come in and clarify any blank spaces there. Joanne, please.
Thanks, Chair. I'm not a VAT expert either, but when a landowner opts to tax VAT on the land, then the land is permanently subject to VAT, regardless of what subsequent owners choose to do. So Lovell Homes, when they bought this, the landowner had already previously elected to VAT, so that's how it travels through the transaction. It's unusual for the land VAT to appear in a transaction, but it's not impossible, and it's not in any way unusual in terms of VAT management, if you like. So there is nothing unusual in the tax and VAT management, if you like. It's just not often that owners elect to do it.
There's another point, if it's okay for me to mention this, Joanne. The VAT, the figure it's stated, isn't based on the £7 million. As Joanne has mentioned, it's based on the land value. The £7 million that we're paying up to for the purchase of the houses isn't VAT on that price, it's the VAT. And as Joanne has said, it's like if you own a commercial van and you sell it, if you bought it paying VAT, you can sell it on paying VAT. So that VAT is based on the land value when Lovell purchased it from Phillips. Am I correct in it, Joanne? Thank you very much. Is that okay, Alan? Chair, certainly.
4.1 in the fourth line down, from Lovell Homes for a total price not in excess of £7 million, in brackets, which includes the cost of the land. And then after the negotiations, Lovell come back and say, by the way, we want you to pay another £188,000. You don't need to bother, the taxpayer will pay it.
Alan, there's no need to be as flippant as you're trying to be.
I'm not being flippant, David.
I think you are. I think you are. The VAT is based on the land value, and the £7 million is including the land and the properties. The VAT isn't on the properties. The VAT is on the purchase price that Lovell paid to Phillips. And that's been transferred back to us, and we will reclaim that VAT back. So there is no cost to us. I don't know why you don't want to hear that particular part. Martin?
Yeah. The idea that, like, this is just how VAT works. If you're VAT registered, which the council is, then when you sell things, you need to charge VAT. And so you collect VAT from your customers, but you then deduct any VAT that you've paid as part of like acquiring the goods that you're then selling on. So this idea that you keep returning to, that is claiming it back off the taxpayer, it's just a total misunderstanding of how VAT works. This is completely normal.
Thank you very much. No other question. I'm going to move on to item 11, Delegated Authority Report and update, and that's pages 81 to 84. Joanne Forbes again, please.
Thank you, Chair. This report is the standard quarterly update providing details of transactions processed by officers under delegated authority. Section 3 details the delegated authority levels, and Section 4 of the report and Appendix 1 summarise the transactions by type and value. There is nothing unusual in the volumes or the values for the report, and I would therefore refer the committee back to Section 2 and recommend that they note the report. Thank you, Chair.
I'll second it.
Is there any questions? Okay, that brings us to the end of today's normal business. I have no items of urgent business, so the meeting will formally come to an end before